You're listening to Fox City's Murder and Mayhem, your bi-weekly dose of true crime history in a small rural community of Wisconsin.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Fox City's Murder and Mayhem. I'm Eric.
I'm Gavin.
And Gavin, we are here again.
Yes.
What are we talking about and where are we going today in this episode?
Well, first I want to say my microphone feels extra high today.
It does, doesn't it? I don't know why that is.
I don't know either, but it's comfortable and it sounds okay. So I guess we're gonna record with me sitting up a little higher today.
You know that you can just push it down a little bit.
No, it's good though. So, listeners, if I sound a little bit more
upbeat,
if my posture feels better to you, then all right. No, so we're gonna talk about the Outagamie County Asylum.
Yep, that's right. We talked about this last week, didn't we?
Yes. I did let listeners know that we were heading this direction. And I will tell you, I looked at the material that was available, and I was like, I could do 4 parts of this. Mm-hmm. I could probably do more. We're going to do it in 2 parts.
Okay.
So just a warning to everybody up front, this is a 2-part episode.
So was that a lot more than you were expecting to find?
I mean, not necessarily. It's a place that it still technically exists. So it's been there for, well over 100 years. But I was like, it can't be all good stuff. But there are some things.
And now I assume the Outagamie County Asylum is tiny in comparison to like Winnebago. But
Winnebago's a big one, yeah.
But is what like on a scale like half the size, like not barely a fraction of?
I don't know the exact proportions. The 2 big ones in the state are Oshkosh and Mendota. Mendota's like the Madison one. So yeah, Oshkosh and Outagamie are like, they're not comparable really.
Okay.
Outagamie is nothing compared to Oshkosh.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so we're gonna do that. In 1888, we're going to go way back to we're just starting out there. The president of the State Board of Charities and Reform, it's a very fancy title, went to the Outagamie County Board and said, hey, I think you guys could really use an asylum. And so they formed a committee to look into forming an asylum. They gathered together 5 members of the county board, and they went around and they toured asylums throughout the state to kind of see what other counties were doing and what they liked, what they didn't like. The big question for them was, is it cost effective? Mm-hmm. Because it's not that Appleton and surrounding areas didn't have people they were sending to the asylum. They were just sending them to other counties.
Right.
So it's like, is it more cost effective for us to have our own, or is it more cost effective for us to pay another county to take our people?
Right.
So that was really the big question. They went around. Turns out they liked what they saw. They decided they definitely wanted a county asylum.
Not something that I would feel like if you went to a city government and said, hey, we should build an asylum, they'd be like, yeah, I don't think we want to do that.
Well,
that would be my perception.
Now, I don't know what the government's thought was. Like the version that's printed in the newspaper, they seem very in favor of it. Mm-hmm. What conversations were going on behind the scenes, I don't know.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a difference between what they're saying and what the public is saying. Because the public is of the opinion that, yes, we need an asylum, but don't put it in our city. So, after it was agreed that they should get one, money was set aside to build it. They went out, they found, different land options for places because they needed a lot of land. The initial purchase was going to be 320 acres. So they needed a pretty good chunk. And And yeah, that was kind of like the main deciding factor on where it ended up was who didn't want it. So it was kind of a matter of just going around and figuring that out. And eventually it ends up being on, at that point in time, what was outside of Appleton to the west. Now today it's back in Appleton again. Mm-hmm. But at that time it was outside. So they purchased hundreds of acres off of a farmer west of Appleton. It seems to have been started off okay. They appointed a superintendent named George Downer. He would be the superintendent for 25 years. So, seems to be a well-liked guy. They got in some spats with the newspaper, specifically the Kaukauna Sun newspaper. The Kaukauna Sun newspaper, I gotta tell you, I love this newspaper.
This was the very democratic newspaper, right?
It is. I'm impressed, yes.
We talked about it in I think in the, maybe the dog track store? But that seems like the Sun would have been gone by then.
The Sun would have been gone by then,
yeah,
but yes.
So I don't know what it was, but...
But yes, so in Kaukauna there were two newspapers. Originally there was the Times, which was in theory neutral. Then the Sun comes along, and the Sun is very democratic. And so the Times then becomes Republican by default. It's not really. They still claim to be neutral, but because they're the non-democratic paper. But anyway, so the Sun, like, just bashes it. Like, whenever they run their financial reports, they try to point out discrepancies in the reports. They complain there aren't enough Democrats on the board running the asylum. They complain there's no Germans on the asylum. The Kaukauna Sun has some weird obsession with Germans being represented in the different politics and stuff. It's kind of an odd thing, but that's one of their deals. So they got that going for them. They get the attention of the county attorney so much. The county attorney is John Bodensek. And John Bodensek, like, writes multiple lengthy letters back to the newspaper, like multiple column letters, going through the financials and being like, here's where this number adds up to this number. And they try to be like, we're good. Like, the things you're finding are not there. Your math is just bad. The Sun does seem to come around because by the fourth year of the asylum's existence, they are now in favor of the asylum. They've come around on it, and they gladly report that the asylum is actually turning a profit. How does an asylum turn a profit?
Yeah, I was going to ask that question, but that would seem like it would be stupid. But yes, how does an asylum turn a profit?
It turns a profit because what the asylum is, in addition to a place where you put people, is a lot of free labor. So during the construction of the building, other than the materials, the inmates built their own asylum.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the reason they needed the 300 acres is because they had a farm. So they had corn, barley, they had chickens, pigs, cows, they had the whole deal. And whatever wasn't used to feed the patients there was sold off.
Okay.
And apparently these guys were really good farmers because they would have extra each year and they'd sell it off. So the asylum, at least in the early days, actually made a profit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's debatable whether that it should make a profit, but it did. So people were generally happy with that.
I'm curious. Do you feel like if they had it structured that way and they're making money, is that the wrong thing to do? Is that like exploiting the patients?
See, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't really have a strong opinion on that because if they're in there and they're, you know, it's good for them to be doing things and staying active, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So I don't have a strong opinion on that. I mean, it basically comes down to how you feel about them not getting paid other than that they get to eat their food.
And live for free.
And live for free.
I mean, right?
So I don't have a strong opinion on that. I mean, I don't think it's a bad system. I don't think you could get away with it today.
Right, and I think that's why it doesn't happen today is because people said that was exploiting it. But I tend to look at it from, like, if you're giving these people something to do and they're creating something, which they kind of are when they're growing products that or produce that it's going to be really, really good for them. Because I think that's a fundamental thing people need in life is a purpose. And if you're just rotting away in a asylum, is that a purpose? I don't think so. It's
tough. Like I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. I can definitely see both sides of it. Mm-hmm. People are going to the asylum for a variety of reasons. Now, the place at the time is called the Outagamie Asylum for the Chronic Insane. That is the actual name of the place.
Not so politically correct today, I would say.
Right. It's gone through a few name changes over the years, but that was the original name. And you have to keep in mind that in the late 1800s, early 1900s, what they meant by insane is not what we mean by insane. So there were people there who would have mental disorders that they couldn't handle, the same as we would think today. But then you also had people who had like epilepsy and other things that they didn't have cures for. Mm-hmm. So they put them in there. You also had people who they didn't want to put in general prison population. A man named Milton Chadwick was sent there, quote, for taking improper liberties with a little girl. I don't know exactly what that means, but I have a general idea what that means. So he's thrown in there among the general population. So you've got it's about 150 people here at the time. It's fairly split between male and female. And I don't know how they're divided up because it feels like they're kind of able to move freely in there, which seems like a terrible idea to me.
Yeah, because you probably have some people that are just barely what they would call insane, and then there are people that are severely, damaged and are willing to might do really crazy things.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how they were divided up and separated in the building, but it doesn't sound like they were very separated because security here is really lax. So men and women can interact with each other, which that's fine in most cases. Probably not always great in other cases. And then you've got people who have nervous conditions that by today's standards wouldn't be a big deal at all. We've got medicine. You can fix that. Mixed in with people who are truly have no idea what they're doing and could freak out at any time.
Right.
So,
and it's just like a whole bunch of things mixed together that just seems like the outcome would be bad.
Yeah. October 1895, a man named Mike Steinel went crazy on religion, and he vowed to destroy David Hamill. It's vowed to destroy is like how the newspaper worded it. David Hamill of Appleton for being Jewish. He next threatened to go to Kaukauna and kill Aaron Hamill, who I presume is David's brother. He was locked up in the asylum. A few months later, he was declared cured, so they let him out, but he went crazy again, and this time they decided they were going to bring him to Oshkosh because Oshkosh was like a step up.
Okay.
But he escaped from the officer on the way there and ran off into the woods with his shackles still on, and he was not immediately recaptured. So that's a kind of a running theme. A number of people who escape is really high. Dozens of articles come up of people walking away from the farm, opening up windows and crawling out of the windows at night, and they find them like 15 miles away. So, again, the security here is not great. Mm-hmm. And they're not criminals for the most part. So, like, that's not a big deal, but it's still weird that when you're reading in the newspaper and it says, so-and-so, who is insane, has walked away, or a lot of times they would use the word lunatic, which you definitely wouldn't use professionally today, but they'll be like, the lunatic so-and-so has been seen here. And it's like, okay, that's good. Glad that happened. People tend to die in the asylum. People are dying on a fairly regular basis. There is a cemetery on the grounds, which is near Fox Valley Technical College today. There's somewhere in the neighborhood of 130 people in that cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And those are just the people whose families did not claim them. I mean, and that ran from when it opened around 1890 up through 1940. So in 50 years, 130 people died and were not claimed by their family. A much higher number died and were claimed by their family. Wow. So people are dying regularly. And the majority of them are not dying of old age.
I was just going to ask, so like, is this because of the way they're being treated? Or is it just the conditions are so horrible that people are just getting these sicknesses that are...
I don't know. And I'll tell you this. This is the thing that I really wanted to... This would be a big project. I would love to, or somebody else should, I would love to go to the County Register of Deeds. Death records are public. You can look at death records. Most of the names here are public. The ones in the cemetery are really easy to figure out because they're in the cemetery. A number of the other names, they mention in the newspaper that they died in the asylum, so like they did. So you can get the majority of the names. And I think it'd be really interesting to go through and look.
And see how they're dying, basically?
Yes, because some of them are going to be old age, some are going to be natural causes, but I have a feeling there's going to be a suspiciously high amount of things, because people dying in their 20s and 30s is usually not a good sign.
It's a little bit better if we're back in like the 1880s, but which I think is when you started here. I don't know where we're at right now.
Basically, the doors open around 1890.
Yeah. So 20 to 30 years old isn't like dying 20 and 30 today, so to speak.
We got one patient, one woman who dies at age 38 after being in the asylum for 6 months. We got another patient who died while working on the farm. He was charged and killed by an enraged bull on the grounds. September 1899, a 24-year-old patient named Daniel Nussbaum performed hernia surgery on himself with a jackknife.
Wow.
According to the newspaper, he made an incision in his abdomen, drew out the hernia, cut it off, forced the ends of his bowels back, and closed the incision with 4 stitches. Nobody noticed that he did this until it was dinner time, and he went to get dinner, and they found that he was bleeding on his chair. A doctor was then called who told the press that he was actually really impressed. He did a really good stitching job. But they still had to open him back up because he cut his intestines open, which it's not really a thing you should be doing. They were afraid he was going to bleed to death, but he actually did recover. But so this guy didn't die, but apparently they're roaming free with knives,
doing hernia surgery on themselves.
Yeah, I mean that's disturbing. Yeah. By 1912, George Downer, the superintendent, has an enemy on the county board. Everybody seems to like him except this one guy named Peter Tubbs. And Peter Tubbs runs a newspaper called the Fox River Journal, which I have never heard of.
Okay, I was going to say, this is not something that's come up before.
Never heard of it. I don't know where you can find copies of this. But Peter Tubbs did not like it. he sued George Downer for $7,000, claiming that asylum money was being used by Downer to fund political rivals of Tubbs. I have no idea the truth of this matter. I have some real doubts about that. But Tubbs just does not like this guy. The main focus of this episode, and we're past the halfway point here. I can tell you lists of people dying young and this and that. We're not going to name all the things. The main thing that we're going to come to here is in May 1913, George Downer was sued, this time not by a politician, but by one of his former patients, inmates, whatever.
Okay.
A man named John Rayfeld and his legal guardian, Victor Rayner. So, John Rayfeld has to have a legal guardian because he is insane.
Mm-hmm.
The lawsuit was seeking $10,000 in damages, alleging that Downer, as superintendent, approved an illegal operation. The illegal operation was revealed to be the castration of Rayfeld in 1911, and it was also alleged that numerous other patients had also been castrated.
Okay.
The lawsuit sought the identities of any co-defendants who performed the operation, specifically who were the doctors who worked at the asylum. Downer was a superintendent. He was not a doctor. Mm-hmm. He just was like the administrator. When Downer was asked to say who the doctors on staff were, he invoked his Fifth Amendment. He would not identify them. The judge allowed him not to identify them. But as the lawsuit moved forward, they were able to get the names released. It turns out the man who performed the castration operation on John Rayfeld was a doctor named James Canavan. Why is this interesting? James Canavan was the asylum doctor in 1911. By 1913, when the lawsuit happens, he's the mayor of Appleton.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So that's fun. That's fun. The mayor of Appleton is now being sued for castrating people.
Wow.
Yeah. The case gets moved to Winnebago County, which, I mean, totally makes sense. When you're suing basically the Outagamie County government, you don't really want it in Outagamie County court.
I mean, let's be honest with you, Gavin. Probably more appropriate to move it a little further away than just Winnebago County, like yes. 4 counties over or something like
Probably
that.
Probably yes. But, I mean, this is the early 1900s. I don't know how easy it is to travel around. But yes, I would agree with you there. Mayor Canavan gets out of this lawsuit by doing what anybody would do. He dies. Totally natural causes. But by the end of that same year, he dies while still in office. So while he's mayor, he just ups and dies. No longer getting sued. So
I guess he won there, huh?
He did win there because he was never actually, he didn't lose that battle. So officially, Dr. Canavan is just fine. The county board was still happy with Downer. Regardless of this ongoing lawsuit, they were happy with him. Going into the end of 1913, they had to re-vote on who was going to be superintendent. This was something the county board did every single year. It was it didn't really serve a purpose other than to be like showing support. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like they were going to change superintendents every year. So they voted. One person on the board did not vote for Downer, and that was Peter Tubbs, the politician who doesn't like him very much. The newspaper said that Tubbs picked someone that the other people didn't even know who that was, and they didn't name it, which is unfortunate, because I'd like to know who he picked to run the asylum, but the paper's like, we don't even know who this guy is. The lawsuit goes on another year. Like, this just drags. This just drags on. And through the end of 1914, the Board of Trustees meets again to re-elect them. The vote is again everybody for Downer except Tubbs is against him. But this time he actually chooses somebody that they like, and he chooses a man named Thomas Flanagan. Downer still wins, but they're like, okay, you at least made an alternate choice that we know what you're doing here. Shortly after the vote, Downer tendered his resignation. He says, I appreciate your confidence in me, but I can't do it anymore. He didn't make any further statements on that. And along with him, one of the trustees of the Asylum Board also resigned. He also didn't make a public statement other than to say that he's like, Downer's getting up there in years. I mean, he's probably just wants to retire for health reasons and things like that. It's nothing to do with this ongoing lawsuit. Just don't worry about it. So following his resignation, they vote again, and this time Thomas Flanagan is chosen to run the asylum. So Tubbs gets his candidate eventually.
Please tell me that Thomas Flanagan has a Tubbs. That just a politician that hates him.
Well, that's for next time.
Okay,
that's for next time. This is the George Downer episode. Next time is the Thomas Flanagan episode.
Okay,
that's the part 2. We'll cut it off. Like Flanagan is done in 1944. We're going to cut off. I won't do anything more recent than that. The lawsuit still drags on. I mean, this goes on like it's 2 years, right? Finally, George Downer has resigned. He's still facing the lawsuit. The doctor isn't facing the lawsuit anymore because he's dead. George Downer gets out of the lawsuit, doing the only thing he can think of to do to get out of the lawsuit, which is
he dies.
He goes to downtown Appleton, walks across the Law Street Bridge, and on April 25th, 1915, he jumps off the Law Street Bridge. He lands in the Fox River below, and his body is found a few thousand feet away from where he jumped.
Wow. So now we got a bridge jumping on top of this, huh?
Yes. So Downer is now no longer being sued because he is dead. The lawsuit is dropped. So Downer jumps in April 1915. Later that year, in November 1915, the state of Wisconsin weighs in. And they say, okay, this lawsuit was dropped, but we know this is a problem. This is a conversation that isn't just here. It's a conversation that's happened throughout the country. Mm-hmm. We're going to address it. So they do the only thing the state can think to do to make this right.
They legalize castrating patients?
They do.
Come on.
You nailed it. In November 1915, the state of Wisconsin legalizes forced sterilization of mentally defective people.
See, now this is funny because one of my questions I was going to ask you wasn't that kind of standard practice in mental institutes back in the day?
It kind of was, but in Wisconsin it was not legal.
That is insane. So okay, so probably other parts of the country were doing this all the time. It's just in Wisconsin there happened to be some law that said it was illegal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the laws were state by state, but there was part of that conversation was that other states were doing it legally, and Wisconsin you couldn't. Like, it wasn't illegal in the sense of it being criminal. Downer and the doctor couldn't have been thrown in jail for it, but it was illegal in the sense of it being against the person's rights.
Okay.
So you could get sued for it.
Okay.
So it was a civil penalty and not a criminal penalty. But by legalizing it now, it's neither.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the doctor says, you are mentally defective and either A, we can fix you, or B, you definitely shouldn't be going out making children, they have the right to do it now.
Wow. Please tell me that has been changed.
I'm pretty sure you can't do that anymore. I don't know that.
I don't think they do it anymore, but I'd be curious to know if the law was ever changed to prevent them from doing it. I hope it was.
Pretty sure you can't do it. I mean, there's certain people who might get chemically castrated, but that's more like a criminal thing. That's not they're not doing it for, mental health reasons, to my knowledge. Again, I don't know, but I don't believe so. So
that's part one.
That's part one. So for listeners, I posted on my personal Facebook page. Again, people should know this, but if you don't, I declare myself retired. I do not write, other than these podcast episodes. I do not write currently. But this did catch my attention. I was like, this Asylum story, there are so many things here, because any number of these random incidents could kind of be fleshed out into more stories. And so I said, would people be interested? And apparently a lot of people would be interested. So I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but if the publisher says, hey, can we get another book out of you, this could be it. This might be the one, because it's both super interesting and it's also super local. So it's kind of in that sweet spot for me of how I would like to write something.
Yeah, and I saw the poll.
I know you did.
on Facebook and the resounding results of it. Now, keep in mind that because Gavin lives here,
right,
most people are local, so they're going to choose the Asylum because it's local. But that was the resounding one that was winning on the poll. Everybody wanted the Asylum.
Yeah, so I had asked people between the Asylum and Beloit.
Right.
And because the most of the people that I know live in the Appleton area, yes, I recognize that was obviously going to be the more interesting of the two. But regardless of that, I got more responses than I had expected to get. So it seems like people have an interest.
Yeah, so definitely if you're out there and you're like, no, I want the Beloit book, send an email to MilwaukeeMafia@gmail.com. So you want to give a little sneak peek into what's coming with the John Flanagan side of it? Is it more the same?
There'll be similar things. We're still, in the early days of where an asylum is basically just a place where you put people. In theory, it's a place where you go to cure people, but that's not really how well this works.
And it really just sounds like I'm sure there's doctors and stuff on staff, but it pretty much sounds like they just throw them in there and like you said, no security, nothing, nobody watching over them. They just kind of do what they do.
Yeah.
The doctors probably give them pills every once in a while or whatever.
I don't know, what the security situation is, how many orderlies or whatever they have on staff. I don't know. I could probably find those numbers, but based at least on the basic reading that I've done so far, it seems like it's pretty lightly staffed. They can more or less go as they please. They're not supposed to be able to leave the grounds, but it happens often enough.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't bring this one up, but one guy, they didn't even realize he left. and then it was reported in the paper that he was having a birthday party. And they were like, how are you having a birthday party? You're here. And they looked oh, he's not here. So
wow.
So they didn't even know that he had lost a patient until the newspaper reported that he had invited a bunch of people over to his house.
So do we in part 2? Are we going to get to hear? Because I assume is the farm aspect of it still going on?
The farm aspect is still going on.
Do we get to hear how this dies, or is it just kind of like one day they just say?
Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. Again, like, the asylum still exists today.
Right.
We just don't call it that anymore.
Right.
So, like, the farm part is gone.
Right,
yes.
right.
But yeah, we'll kind of see where things move along with that.
Interesting.
But yeah, I will say this. Well, I don't want to drag this episode on much longer, but I will say this. The reason that this episode was chosen in the first place is I had at least one person, I think a couple people, specifically request it. And they had requested it because they wanted an episode about, and I said this last episode, but what they called Flanagan's Funny Farm.
Okay.
And that, again, that's not a term that, like, should really be using, but what jumped out at me was that that's what they called it. And Flanagan is done by 1944.
Okay.
So it's interesting to me that people today, like in 2025, that is the term they know it by, even though Flanagan hadn't been running it in 80 years.
Interesting.
So I'm like, why is it that this is the name that they know it by and not Downer's Farm or, the people after Flanagan? What made Flanagan the guy?
Are we gonna blatantly be able to tell that when we hear the second part of this
story?
Well,
you can be the judge of that, but we'll get into how Flanagan operated the place.
Gotcha. All right, so that's a little suspense for you for the next episode. Yeah. So hopefully everybody will check it out. We want to thank everybody for their continued support of this podcast, and we will see you all back in 2 weeks.
All right. See you there.
Thanks for tuning in to Fox City's Murder and Mayhem. Join us in 2 weeks for another exciting episode of Murder and Mayhem.